How are you feeling right now? Where are you at? Are you at your office? Are you at home? Do you have a drink next to you? Is it coffee, tea, water? Maybe a fine glass of wine, assuming it's after hours. What did you do right before you clicked on this video? What do you plan to do after? Congratulations! You are already doing our very first theme, context. Let's talk about context. We start with context before anything else because it is through an awareness, an understanding, and a reflection of our context and the context of others that we can start truly considering equity. As you can see in the context page of the guidebook, I use it to discuss the context of both the guidebook and of myself as an author. For an example, by discussing my own privileged demographics, you, the reader and listener, can better understand the perspective I'm coming from, more as an ally than someone who has experienced prejudice directly. By accepting my context, I know my strength lies in talking about equity in general, as opposed to speaking on behalf of groups such as racial minorities, women, and others whose demographics I do not share. They can speak for themselves. Let's say hello to our friend the chameleon. Like the chameleon, our context constantly changes. Sometimes we're the supervisor, or technical expert, or final decision maker, while other times we're more in a subordinate role, or the novice, or we're advising someone else who's going to make the final call. There are times we hold a great deal of influence over a program or project's outcome, and other times we really do not. Sometimes we're at our best, ready to face the world. Other times we're really stressed and frustrated and the little things get to us. And of course, different aspects of our context matter more in different situations. The fact that we're a local government professional probably matters a great deal during the council meeting or the meeting for the board of trustees, while at other times, like if we're shopping at the grocery store, our local government profession probably isn't going to kick in very much. Let's explore this through an example. Say we're planners working on the comprehensive plan. We have a graduate degree in urban planning. That's context, in this case our technical competence. Let's also say we've been put in charge of a specific section, such as parks and open spaces. We don't necessarily have a strong background in this area, and that's context too. Let's say for our hypothetical community there's three general areas: a dense urban part with lots of apartments and older homes, a wealthier suburban area with bigger homes and yards, and finally a rural section with ranch homes and working farms. One of these areas may be more familiar to us, the kind of place we grew up in. Two of them are likely different than what we've personally grown up in. Context again, as one area we may understand more intuitively, others less so. We may personally have grown up with certain playground features and have a preference for the big, multifaceted equipment over open fields. That preference, that bias is context. We may also have a citizen parks committee who we have disagreed with on issues in the past, and a supervisor who's hands-off, and we may be on a tight deadline. Maybe we just finished a project and have some time to plan and brainstorm, or maybe we're under hard deadlines and feel stretched thin. Context, 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 all of it. So now that we've gone through our role play, what do we actually do with it? What is the next step? Well, by understanding our context, we can see where our strengths are, our gaps are, our preferences, our history, and so on. If we don't know much about rural living, that means we can take the extra effort to do the research, communication, and collaboration with those that do in order to come up with a better parks plan for them. If we know we've had some past disagreements with the committee, we know to be extra patient, to listen more closely, else we can assume we'll disagree yet again without hearing their point of view fully. Our context, our experience, our perspective matters, and it is always one piece of the puzzle to be complemented by others. Let's stop for a minute here, because I know as public servants, we're often pressured and pushed to take a step back, to be impartial, to remove ourselves out of the equation. And that's all right. That doesn't mean we don't have any context, because there is always context. Always. If we are meant to be impartial, then that is context to be complemented by stakeholders who hold strong positions. If we are just doing our job, that is context to be weighed against people who live, work, and travel through our community, who might be getting engaged on a more volunteer basis. Equity work is to keep context front of mind and seeking to work and serve people of all contexts, not just those who are most influential, who are the best connected, and whose perspective is most familiar to our own. For the optional exercise on this page, consider reflecting and/or writing about our different contexts in certain projects, meetings, other scenarios we find ourselves in. Practice makes perfect, and the more we start thinking about context both for ourselves and others, the more natural it'll start to be. And if you'd like to dig deeper, to go more advanced into this idea of context, I'd recommend to start researching and exploring our own demographics that make us up, whether it privileges us or disadvantages us. In my case, it was to really start reading up on and understanding what does it mean to be a Caucasian American? What advantages does it give me? What sort of cultural traits have I grown up with that I've taken for advantage? Same with being male, same with growing up in an upper middle class household in the Denver suburbs. Beyond this, it's also starting to learn about others' context, people whose life experience is different than our own, but I must emphasize to do so in a curious, open-minded, and judge-free way. It's really looking at our own background and experiences as one valid option, and people who are different from us having an equally valid perspective on life as well. Simple enough. Next time we're going to cover a real fun one, self-responsibility. See you next week.